So, when you hear the word economics, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably the stock market, right? Or maybe interest rates, some super complicated charts. For most of us, that's kind of the whole picture. But what if I told you that's just a tiny, tiny piece of the puzzle? Today, we're going to dive into what economics is really all about.
All right, let's just jump right in with a pretty wild question. What if economics isn't actually about money at all? I know, that sounds kind of crazy, right? But stick with me, because getting your head around this one idea is the key to unlocking the whole field. See, it's not really a study of wealth. It's a study of something way more fundamental, something that shapes every single day of our lives.
And here it is, the big reveal. At its core, economics is really the science of choice. That's it. It's the study of how all of us, you, me, huge companies, entire countries, go about making decisions when we just can't have everything we want. It's a human story, and it applies to literally every single one of us.
Okay, so if it's all about choice, what's the big problem that even makes us need to choose? Why is this a thing? Well, it all boils down to one single powerful concept that affects every single person every single day. And that concept is scarcity.
You see, scarcity is this fundamental clash. On one side, we humans, our wants are pretty much unlimited, right? We always want more of something. But on the other side, the stuff we have to get what we want, the resources, they're limited. They're finite. Here's a really simple way to think about it. Just ask yourself, if this thing was totally free, would there be enough for everyone who wants it? If the answer is no, then it's scarce. So what exactly are these limited resources we're talking about? Well, economists usually lump them into three big buckets. First up, you've got human resources. That's our work, our skills, our knowledge. Then there are natural resources, land, water, oil, all that good stuff. And third, we have capital goods. These are the tools and machines and factories we build. Now, notice anything missing from that list? Where's the money? And this is a huge point. Money itself isn't a productive resource. It's just the medium of exchange. Think of it like a claim ticket. It doesn't actually produce anything. After all, money doesn't build a house, right? People, lumber, and nail guns do. Okay, so scarcity forces us to make choices. We get that. But how do we actually measure the real cost of any given choice? That question brings us to maybe one of the most important, most powerful ideas in all of economics. It's called opportunity cost. Here's how it works. Every single time you choose to do one thing, you are, at that exact same moment, choosing not to do a million other things. The opportunity cost is simply the value of the next best thing you gave up. It's the road not taken. That is the true, hidden cost of every decision you make. Let's make this super concrete. Imagine a city has a big, empty plot of land and a budget to build something. They decide to build a brand new hospital. Now, the money they spend on bricks and labor, that's just the accounting cost. The real economic cost, the opportunity cost, is the school they could have built there instead, or the public park, or the library. It's the value of the best alternative they had to say no to. And that's why, for an economist, the only real cost is the opportunity cost. It's a total mindset shift. It forces you to look at the world not just by what you're getting, but by what you're sacrificing to get it. It changes everything about how you think about making a decision. Right. So we've established that economists study choices that are forced by scarcity. But they don't just look at it in one way. They look at it from two totally different angles. You can think of it like a filmmaker who has two favorite lenses, a tight close-up lens and a super wide-angle one. And this gives you a perfect feel for the difference. The close-up lens, that's what we call microeconomics. It zooms right in on the small stuff, asking questions like, hey, why is the price of my coffee suddenly so high? The wide-angle lens, on the other hand, is macroeconomics. It pulls way back to see the whole landscape, asking much bigger questions, like, why is everything in the whole country getting more expensive? You know that old saying, can't see the forest for the trees? That's basically it. Microeconomics is all about studying the individual trees. It's looking at you, the consumer, or one specific company, or a single person's salary. Macroeconomics is about stepping back and looking at the entire forest. It's concerned with the big picture stuff, things like national income, the overall unemployment rate, and GDP. All right, so now we have our tools: scarcity, opportunity cost, micro, and macro. Let's zoom out again, even wider than before. How do entire societies get organized to answer those really basic questions? What are we going to produce? How are we going to produce it? And who gets the stuff we make? This is where economic systems come into play.
In theory, you can imagine two extreme, polar opposite ways of doing things. On one side, you have a pure market economy. Here, decisions are totally decentralized. You and I and private companies, we own everything, and prices just happen naturally based on supply and demand. Then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have a command economy. This is where a central authority, usually the government, calls all the shots. They own the resources, and they decide what everything costs.
But here's the thing. That's just theory. In the real world, neither of those pure systems actually exist. The reality is that pretty much every country on Earth operates as a mixed economy. It's a blend. The idea is to get the best of both worlds, to harness the power and efficiency of the free market, but also have the government step in to fix problems and make sure society is hitting its bigger goals. And the big ongoing debate is always about what's the right mix. This whole conversation was really shaped by some absolute giants of economic thinking. On one side, arguing for as little government as possible, you've got the grandfather of it all, Adam Smith. He came up with this incredible idea of the invisible hand. Basically, he said that if everyone just pursues their own selfish interests in a free market, it somehow, as if guided by an invisible hand, all works out for the good of society. And for a really long time, that invisible hand idea was the dominant way of thinking. But then, the Great Depression happened, and it just completely shattered the notion that markets would always fix themselves. Out of that chaos came another brilliant economist, John Maynard Keynes. He argued, no way, markets can fail, and they can fail badly. He said they can get stuck with tons of unemployment for years, and his solution was revolutionary at the time. The government has to get involved. It needs to actively manage things to keep the whole economic engine from stalling out.
So this really lays out the big ideological battle lines. You've got the classical folks, following Adam Smith, who say hands off the market. Then you have the Marxist school, which argues the whole system is broken and needs total state control. And sitting somewhere in the middle, you have the Keynesian school, which says the market is good, but it needs a referee. And honestly, this is still the fundamental debate that shapes almost all economic policy today.
You know, for most of the last century, the main goal of economics seemed pretty simple: growth. Just make the economy bigger. Increase that GDP number. But lately, a new, really important question is starting to be asked. Is growth actually enough? And this question is taking us right to the cutting edge of what economists are thinking about today. And this really gets to the heart of the trade-off. Look, the market system is an absolute superstar at a couple of things. It is incredibly efficient. It's fantastic at getting resources to where they're supposed to go. But then you look at that third bar, social equality, and it's pretty low. And there's a simple reason why. If your system is designed to give things to whoever can pay the most for them, you are, by definition, going to end up with a lot of inequality. So, in response to that problem, a really interesting new idea is starting to get a lot of attention. It's called the well-being economy. And the core idea is simple but powerful. Maybe the goal shouldn't just be to grow the economy for growth's sake. Maybe the economy should be a tool we use to improve people's lives, to protect our planet, and to create a fairer society. It's a complete rethink of what economic success even means. And that brings us right back to where we started, with a final, really important thought. For the last 100 years, we've become absolute masters of the economics of growth. We know how to make the pie bigger. But remember opportunity cost? By choosing to focus so intensely on growth, what was the next best alternative we gave up? What is the true cost of not putting human well-being at the center of our economic thinking? And figuring out the answer to that, well, that might just be the most important economic question we face today.